The palace of Prime was made of crystal. It rose from the purple mountains like a frozen dream, catching the light of 3 distant suns. Inside its walls, the most powerful beings in 12 star systems walked on floors that sang with every step. Servants moved in silence. Guards stood like statues. And somewhere in the lower halls, a human named carried boxes of supplies and wondered why he had ever left Earth. 3 years. 3 years since the Republic had sent him here as part of a cultural exchange program. They had called it an honor. They had called it an opportunity. What they had not told him was that they saw humans the same way humans saw insects. Interesting, perhaps. Worthy of study, maybe, but never equals, never friends. Was 34 years old. He had served 8 years in the Republic Marines before a knee injury ended his combat career. He had been a good soldier. He had followed orders. He had never questioned why he was fighting or who he was fighting for. But when the doctors told him he would never run into battle again, something inside him had broken. Not his body, his purpose. The diplomatic corps had seemed like a second chance, a way to serve without fighting, a way to matter again. But here, on this alien world, he was nothing. Just another strange creature from a strange planet, tolerated because they were too polite to send him away. He lived in a small room near the kitchens. He ate alone. He spoke to the other servants only when necessary, and they rarely spoke back. They were tall and thin, with skin that glowed softly in the dark. They moved like dancers and spoke like poets. Next to them felt like a rock pretending to be a flower. The royal guard was another matter entirely. 40 warriors served Queen, and they were nothing like the delicate. They were massive. Their bodies were covered in natural armor that could stop a blade. Their 4 arms could crush stone. They had served the throne for 10,000 years, and their loyalty was considered absolute. Did not trust them. He could not explain why. It was a feeling in his gut, the same feeling that had saved his life 3 times during his Marine days. Something was wrong. He saw it in the way guard captains spoke to certain visitors. He saw it in the supply manifests that did not add up. He saw it in the nervous glances that the guards exchanged when they thought no one was watching. But was always watching. He had nothing else to do. One evening, he brought his concerns to the chief steward. Was a highborn, old and proud, with skin that glowed like moonlight. He listened to speak for exactly 2 minutes before raising a hand to stop him. "You see shadows because your species evolved as prey," said. His voice was gentle, almost kind, which made the insult worse. "They have served this throne since before your planet had writing. They are incorruptible. You are simply too young, too small, and too frightened to understand." Wanted to argue. He wanted to grab the old alien by his thin shoulders and shake him until he listened. But he did neither. He simply nodded, bowed, and returned to his work. That night he began keeping his own records. He wrote down everything, every strange conversation, every unusual shipment, every visitor who met with behind closed doors. He did not know what he was looking for. He only knew that something bad was coming. The Queen herself was a mystery to him, had ruled for 200 years, which was young for her. She was beautiful in the way that stars are beautiful, distant and cold and impossible to touch. Had spoken to her exactly twice. The first time, she had asked him what Earth was like. He had told her about blue skies and green forests and oceans that stretched forever. She had smiled and said it sounded lovely. The second time, she had passed him in a hallway and said nothing at all. She had simply looked at him with those silver eyes, as if seeing something that surprised her. Then she was gone, and was left wondering if he had imagined the whole thing. He did not hate the Queen. He did not hate any of them, but he was lonely in a way that he had never been lonely before. On Earth, even in the worst times, he had always had brothers and sisters in arms, people who understood him, people who would die for him and for whom he would die. Here he had no one. The Festival of Twin Moons approached. It was the most important celebration in the calendar, a night when both of Prime's moons rose full and bright at the same moment. Dignitaries came from across the empire. The palace filled with light and music and laughter. Worked harder than ever, carrying supplies and delivering messages and staying out of sight. The festival was not for him. Nothing here was for him. He was just a shadow in a world of light. But as he worked, he watched, and what he saw made his stomach turn cold. The guards were nervous, not the careful alertness of soldiers preparing for a busy night. This was different. This was fear. This was guilt. Spoke to a hooded figure near the eastern gate. Money changed hands. The hooded figure disappeared into the night. Tried one more time to warn someone. He found a young noble named who had always been kind to him. She was gentle and curious, one of the few who treated him like a person instead of a pet. "Something is wrong," he told her. "The guards are planning something. Please, you have to tell someone who will listen." Looked at him with sad eyes. She said softly, "I believe that you believe this, but they would never betray us. They cannot. It is not in their nature." "Everyone can betray," said, "given the right price." Shook her head. "You are a good person, but you do not understand our world. Please try to enjoy the festival. Everything will be fine." She walked away, her glowing skin fading into the crowd. Stood alone in the hallway, his warnings ignored, his fears dismissed. He thought about going to the evacuation shuttles. He thought about leaving this place and never looking back. But something held him there, something he could not name. He did not know that in 6 hours his whole life would change. He did not know that by morning he would be the only thing standing between a queen and death. He only knew that he could not leave, not yet, not until he understood why. The twin moons rose. The festival began. And somewhere in the shadows, 40 guards prepared to commit the greatest betrayal in 10,000 years. The music stopped at midnight. One moment the great hall was filled with laughter and light. The next moment, every light in the palace went dark. Was in the lower archives when it happened. He had been unable to sleep, unable to shake the feeling that something terrible was about to begin. So he had come down to the dusty old rooms where no one ever went, hopping to find some peace in the silence. The darkness hit him like a physical blow. Then came the sound that would haunt his dreams for years to come. The defense grid powering down, the shields falling, the gates opening. He knew that sound. He had heard it before, during training simulations that showed what happened when a fortress was betrayed from within. The alarm started screaming. Moved without thinking. His body remembered what his mind had tried to forget. 8 years of Marine training took over, pushing aside the fear, the confusion, the desire to run. He found the emergency lights and activated them. He grabbed a fire extinguisher, the only weapon he could find. Then he started moving toward the throne room. The hallways were chaos. Servants ran in every direction, their glowing skin flickering with terror. Nobles screamed and pushed and trampled each other in their rush to escape. No one was fighting. No one was organizing. They were all just running like animals fleeing a fire. Through the windows saw ships landing in the courtyard, dark ships with no markings, mercenary vessels. Whoever had planned this attack had money, lots of money. He passed a group of guards standing in formation near the eastern gate. For one moment, hope flared in his chest. Then he saw what they were doing. They were walking out. All 40 guards, moving in perfect formation, their weapons holstered, their faces empty. They marched through the open gates like soldiers on parade, leaving the palace defenseless behind them. Watched them go, he wanted to scream. He wanted to chase them down and demand answers, but there was no time. The mercenaries were already inside. He ran. The throne room was at the heart of the palace, protected by 3 sets of doors and a dozen security checkpoints. All of them were open now. All of them were unmanned, past bodies on the floor, servants who had tried to run, nobles who had tried to hide. The mercenaries were not taking prisoners. He heard gunfire ahead, plasma weapons hot and angry, someone was fighting back. Burst through the final door and found himself in the throne room. It was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. Crystal walls rose 100 feet high, catching the light of the twin moons that shone through the shattered ceiling. The throne itself was carved from a single piece of white stone, ancient and powerful. And standing before it, alone and terrified, was Queen. She wore a gown of silver that matched her eyes. Her skin glowed brighter than had ever seen, a sign of extreme emotion in her species. She was not running. She was not hiding. She was simply standing there, watching the main doors buckle under plasma charges, waiting for death to come. "Your Majesty," said. She turned. For a moment she did not seem to recognize him. Then her silver eyes widened. "The human," she said, "from the lower halls. We need to move, now." The doors buckled again. They would not hold much longer. "My guards," the Queen said, her voice was hollow. "They left, all of them, they just left." "I know," grabbed her arm as gently as he could while still being urgent. "We can talk about it later. Right now we need to go." "Why are you here?" The question stopped him. It was a fair question. He could have run. He could have hidden. He could have found a shuttle and escaped this dying palace like everyone else. No one would have blamed him. No one would have even noticed. But he had not done any of those things. Instead, he had run toward the danger, toward the gunfire, toward the Queen. "Because I'm the only one left who can fight," he said. "So I fight." The doors exploded inward. 3 mercenaries stormed through, their weapons raised, their armor black as night. They saw the Queen and they hesitated for just a moment. That moment was enough. Through the fire extinguisher. It hit the first mercenary in the face, spraying white foam everywhere. The second mercenary fired but was already moving, dropping low and charging forward. He hit the blinded mercenary at the knees and brought him down hard. The third mercenary aimed at the Queen. Grabbed the fallen alien's weapon and fired without aiming. The shot went wide, but it was enough to make the mercenary duck. Fired again, then again. One shot hit the mercenary in the shoulder. Another hit him in the chest. He fell. Grabbed the Queen's hand. "Run." They ran. Through the side door that no one ever used. Down the servant stairs that no one important knew about. Into the darkness of the lower palace, where had spent 3 years learning every corner, every shadow, every forgotten passage. Behind them, more mercenaries poured into the throne room. They found their fallen comrades and they started to search. But by then, and the Queen were already gone, swallowed by the maze of tunnels beneath the palace. The Queen's hand was cold in his. She was shaking. But she did not cry. She did not scream. She just held on tight and trusted him to lead her through the dark. "Who are you?" she whispered. "My name is—" "No, I mean, who are you? Why did you stay?" He did not answer for a long time. They moved through the darkness, listening for pursuit, stopping at every corner to make sure the way was clear. Finally, when they reached a small storage room and he was sure they were alone, looked at the Queen. "3 years ago," he said, "I was a soldier. I had a purpose. I had brothers and sisters who would die for me. Then I got hurt and they sent me here and I had nothing. I was nothing. Just a human in a palace full of aliens who thought I was a pet." The Queen said nothing. "But tonight, when everyone ran, something happened. I remembered why I became a soldier in the first place. Not for medals, not for glory, because there are things worth protecting, people worth dying for." He checked the corridor outside, still clear. "You don't know me," he continued. "You've spoken to me twice in 3 years, but you're the Queen, you matter. And right now I'm the only one who can keep you alive. So that's what I'm going to do." Queen looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. "Then lead the way," she said, "and I will follow." Outside, the palace burned. The mercenaries searched. And somewhere in the chaos, a human and a queen began their long journey through the dark. The tunnels beneath the palace were old, older than the current building, older than the Queen's family line. They had been built during a war that ended 5,000 years ago, and most people had forgotten they existed. Had not forgotten. He had found them during his first month on Prime when he was exploring the lower halls out of boredom. He had mapped them carefully, marking every turn, every dead end, every hidden exit. At the time, he had not known why. Now he understood. Some part of him had always known this day would come. The Queen moved quietly behind him. Her bare feet made no sound on the cold stone floor. She had lost her shoes somewhere in the throne room, and her silver gown was torn and dirty. But she did not complain. She did not slow down. She simply followed through the darkness, trusting him completely. He wished he deserved that trust. The mercenaries were good, better than he had hoped. Within an hour of the attack, they had spread through the palace like water, filling every room, every hallway, every hiding place. Could hear them above, their heavy boots shaking dust from the ceiling. He stopped at a junction. 3 tunnels branched off in different directions. He closed his eyes and tried to remember his mental map. Left, he said. The right tunnel leads to the old armory, but it collapsed 20 years ago. The center tunnel goes to the gardens, and they'll have guards there. How do you know all this? The Queen asked. I had a lot of free time. They moved on. The tunnel grew narrower, forcing them to walk single file. Went first, his stolen weapon ready. The plasma rifle was military grade, probably stolen from some Republic armory. It felt good in his hands, familiar. He tried not to think about how much he had missed this feeling. After another hour of walking, they reached a wider chamber. Old machinery filled the space, covered in dust and cobwebs. This had been a maintenance hub once back when the tunnels were still in use. Now it was just another forgotten corner of a forgotten world. Allowed himself to rest for a moment. His shoulder throbbed where a plasma bolt had grazed him during the throne room fight. He had not told the Queen about the wound. She had enough to worry about. We need to reach the royal shelter, he said. It's designed to survive orbital bombardment. Once we're inside, we can call for help. The shelter is on the other side of the palace, the Queen said. I know. That's very far. I know. She was quiet for a moment, then she said, You're bleeding. Looked down. Blood had soaked through his shirt, dark and wet. The wound was worse than he had thought. It's nothing, he said. It is not nothing. The Queen tore a strip from her ruined gown and approached him. Let me see. He wanted to refuse. They did not have time for this, but something in her voice made him stop. He pulled aside his shirt and let her look at the wound. It was ugly. The plasma had burned through skin and muscle, leaving a blackened mess that oozed blood. The Queen's face went pale, but her hands were steady as she pressed the cloth against the wound. This needs proper treatment, she said. Later. You could die. Later. She tied the makeshift bandage tight, bit back a cry of pain. Then, without warning, the Queen took his hand and squeezed it gently. Thank you, she said, for staying, for fighting, for not leaving me alone. Did not know what to say. No one had thanked him for anything in 3 years. We should keep moving, he said finally. They kept moving. The next few hours were a nightmare. The mercenaries had brought hunter drones, small flying machines that could track heat and movement. Heard them buzzing through the tunnels, getting closer with every passing minute. He led the Queen through a series of tight passages that the drones could not follow. He triggered a coolant leak in one corridor, filling it with freezing gas that masked their heat signatures. He collapsed a section of tunnel behind them, buying precious time. But the enemy adapted. They were professional. They had done this before. Eventually, made a mistake. He took a wrong turn and found himself in a dead end. A storage bay filled with old equipment and no exit. He turned to go back, but it was too late. 3 mercenaries blocked the entrance. They were big, armored and armed with weapons that could cut through steel. "End of the line, human," one of them said. His voice was rough, almost bored. "Give us the queen and you can go. We have no orders to kill your kind." Looked at the mercenaries. He looked at the queen. He looked at the ceremonial knife he had grabbed from a display case hours ago. It was a beautiful weapon, but it had never been used for actual combat. Tonight that would change. "Run," he told the queen. "There's a vent in the back corner. It leads to the next level. Go." "I will not leave you. You're the queen, you matter. I'm just a human. Go." She did not move. The mercenaries laughed. Touching, one of them said, "Kill them both." They raised their weapons. Attacked. He moved faster than they expected. Humans were supposed to be slow, weak, fragile, but had spent 8 years learning how to fight enemies bigger and stronger than himself. He knew that speed and surprise could beat size and strength. He threw the knife. It buried itself in the first mercenary's throat. The alien fell, gurgling, his weapon discharging into the ceiling. The second mercenary fired, was already moving, rolling to the side, coming up inside the alien's guard. He grabbed the weapon and twisted. Something cracked. The mercenary screamed. The third mercenary hit from behind. The blow sent him flying across the room. He hit the wall hard and felt something break in his chest. Ribs, probably, maybe more. He got up anyway. The mercenary stared at him. "What are you?" Picked up a fallen weapon. His hands were shaking. Blood dripped from wounds he could not count. Every breath felt like fire. "I'm human," he said. "We don't stop." He fired. The mercenary fell. Stood in the silent storage bay, surrounded by the bodies of his enemies. He wanted to collapse. He wanted to close his eyes and let the darkness take him. But the queen was watching, and he had made a promise. "Come on," he said. "We're almost there." She came to his side and wrapped an arm around him, supporting his weight. Together, they limped out of the storage bay and continued through the tunnels. Behind them, more mercenaries were coming. The hunt was not over, but was still standing, and as long as he was standing, he would fight. That was what humans did. That was who they were. They fought until the end. The royal shelter was exactly where remembered. A massive door of black metal set into the stone wall, covered with symbols that had been old when human beings were still living in caves. This door had protected royalty for 10,000 years. Tonight it would not open. Stared at the control panel. Red lights flashed where green lights should have been. The lockout codes had been changed. The security protocols had been corrupted. Someone had made very sure that the queen would not escape. "Can you fix it?" he asked. Queen studied the panel. Her delicate fingers moved across the symbols, testing, probing, searching for a way in. "The system has been sabotaged," she said, "but not completely destroyed. I can override it. I just need time." "How much time?" She was quiet for a moment. 10 minutes, maybe more. Looked back down the corridor. It was long and narrow, with walls of smooth stone that offered no cover. A perfect killing ground. A perfect place to make a stand. "You'll have your 10 minutes," he said. The queen looked at him. Really looked at him for the first time since they had met. She saw the blood soaking through his clothes. She saw the way he leaned against the wall, unable to stand straight. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes, deeper than any sleep could cure. "You cannot fight anymore," she said. "You are dying." "Probably." "Then why?" Checked his weapon. 36 shots left. Not enough. Not nearly enough, but it would have to do. "Because some things matter more than living," he said. "Because I made a choice when I walked into that throne room. Because you're worth protecting, even if I'm the only one who sees it." Tears fell from the queen's silver eyes. She had not cried all night. Not when her guards betrayed her. Not when her palace burned. Not when she watched kill 3 mercenaries with his bare hands. But she cried now. I will not forget this, she said. Whatever happens, I will not forget you. Good almost smiled. Now fix that door. She turned back to the panel. Her fingers flew across the controls, turned to face the corridor. He did not have to wait long. The mercenary commander came personally. His name was, and he was one of the oldest and deadliest species in the galaxy. Battle scars covered his gray skin. His eyes were cold and empty, the eyes of someone who had killed so many times that it meant nothing anymore. He brought 12 soldiers with him. They filled the corridor, their weapons aimed at, their faces hidden behind black helmets. The human said, his voice was rough like gravel. I heard you were causing trouble, killed 6 of my men already. 7 said, one of them died slowly. Almost looked impressed. Brave, stupid, but brave. He took a step forward. Here's my offer, walk away. We have no quarrel with your species. This is business. Let us have the queen and you can leave this planet alive. No. No, laughed. Look at yourself, human, you can barely stand. You have 1 weapon with maybe 30 shots. I have 12 soldiers with full armor and shields. You cannot win this fight. Probably not. Then why refuse? Raised his weapon. Because I don't fight to win. I fight because it's right. I fight because she trusted me when everyone else ran. I fight because I'm a soldier, and soldiers don't abandon their posts. He pointed down the corridor. You want the queen? Come and get her. Studied him for a long moment. Then he shook his head sadly. Kill him, he said. The soldiers charged. Opened fire. The corridor was narrow. The soldiers could only come at him 2 at a time. This was his advantage, and he used it ruthlessly. His first shot took down the lead soldier. His second shot hit another in the leg. The third shot went wide, but the fourth found its mark. They returned fire. Plasma bolts screamed past his head. One hit his arm, burning through flesh. Another grazed his side. He kept shooting. 2 soldiers down, then 3, then 4. His weapon clicked empty. He threw it at the nearest soldier and charged. Fighting hand to hand against armored enemies was suicide. Did it anyway. He grabbed a soldier's weapon and turned it against its owner. He ducked under a swinging fist and drove his elbow into an unprotected throat. He took hits that should have killed him and kept moving. Blood filled his mouth. His vision blurred. He could feel his body failing, shutting down piece by piece, but he refused to fall. Behind him, he heard the queen cry out, almost there, just a little more. He bought her that little more. When his legs finally gave out, 8 soldiers lay dead or dying on the floor. 4 remained standing, including. They surrounded, their weapons aimed at his head. Impressive, said. He was not laughing anymore. I've never seen anything like that. What are you humans made of? Tried to speak, but only blood came out. Behind him there was a sound like thunder. The shelter door was opening. His eyes widened. No. He raised his weapon to fire at the queen. Moved one last time. He threw himself between and the door. The plasma bolt hit him in the chest. He fell. Through fatting eyes, he saw the queen disappear behind the closing door. He saw her face, her silver eyes, her tears. He saw her mouth his name. Then everything went dark. Stood over the human's body. He kicked it once, twice. No response. Dead, he said, finally. He turned to the shelter door. It was sealed now, locked tight. They could not break through, not in time. The Republic response team was already on its way. The mission had failed. All because of one human. One small, weak, fragile human who had refused to run. Sir, one of the soldiers said, we need to go. Looked its body one more time. Leave him, he said. Let the Republic find him. Let them see what their kind is capable of. They left. 10 minutes later, the Republic Rapid Response Team arrived. They found the corridor filled with bodies. They found the shelter door sealed and secure. And they found, lying in a pool of his own blood, barely breathing. He should have been dead. By every medical standard, by every logical measure, he should have been dead. But his heart was still beating. His lungs were still working. He was still fighting. The medics rushed him to the shuttle. They pumped him full of drugs and sealed his wounds with emergency foam. They did not think he would survive the trip to the hospital ship. He survived. He survived because he was human. And humans, as the galaxy was about to learn, did not know how to give up. Inside the shelter, Queen sat alone in the darkness. She was safe. She was alive. And she knew with absolute certainty that she owed everything to a man who had nothing, who was nothing, who had been dismissed and ignored and forgotten. A man who had stayed when everyone else ran. She would not forget. She would never forget. Woke to the sound of machines, soft beeping, gentle humming, the quiet noise of technology keeping him alive. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was white and clean. Sunlight streamed through a window to his right. Everything smelled like medicine and fresh sheets. A Republic medical facility. He recognized the design. He had woken up in places like this before, back when he was a Marine. Back when his body broke and the doctors put him together again. He tried to move and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through every part of him. His chest, his arms, his legs, everything hurt. But he was alive. Somehow, impossibly, he was alive. You should not be awake yet. Turned his head. Queen sat in a chair beside his bed. She was wearing simple clothes, nothing like the royal gowns he had seen her in before. Her silver eyes were red from crying. She looked exhausted. "Your Majesty," he said. His voice came out rough and broken. "Do not speak." She stood and moved closer to him. "You have been unconscious for 3 weeks. Your wounds were severe. The doctors said you should have died a dozen times during surgery. They do not understand how you survived." Almost laughed. It hurt too much, so he stopped. "Humans are stubborn," he said. "Yes, I am beginning to understand that." She sat on the edge of his bed. For a long moment, she simply looked at him, as if seeing him for the first time. "They have been exiled," she said. "Every one of them. Their entire species has been banned from all positions of trust throughout the Empire. They will never serve as guards again. Not for me. Not for anyone." Nodded slowly. He should have felt satisfied. He had been right about the guards. He had warned them and no one had listened. But he felt nothing, just tired. "Is dead," the Queen continued. "He tried to escape on a mercenary ship. The Republic shot it down." "Good. The separatists who planned the attack have been captured, most of them. The ones who funded the operation are still free, but we will find them, eventually." She paused, her hands twisted together in her lap. "My advisors tell me I should be angry with all aliens now," she said. "That I should see this as proof that no one can be trusted, that I should hide behind walls and weapons and never let anyone close again." "And what do you think?" asked. The Queen was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. "I think I was wrong," she said. "About you, about humans, about everything." She took his hand in both of hers. Her skin was cool and smooth, like touching silk. "For 3 years you lived in my palace. You walked my halls. You served my table, and I never once saw you. Not really. You were just another alien, another curiosity from a young and unimportant world." Tears formed in her eyes. "But when everyone ran, you stayed. When my guards betrayed me, you fought. When you should have died, you kept fighting. Not for money, not for glory, not because anyone ordered you to. You did it because you believed it was right." She squeezed his hand. "I have ruled for 200 years. I have met thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds. I have never met anyone like you." Did not know what to say. He had spent 3 years being invisible, being ignored, being nothing. And now the most powerful woman in 12 star systems was holding his hand and crying. "I want to offer you a position," the Queen said. I need to rebuild my royal guard from nothing. New soldiers, new training, new everything, and I want you to lead them." "I'm not a leader," said. "I'm just a soldier." "You are exactly what I need." She leaned closer. "Someone who understands that loyalty is not about species or history or tradition. Someone who knows that courage matters more than size. Someone who will stay when everyone else runs." Closed his eyes, he thought about his life, his years in the Marines, his injury, his exile to a world that did not want him, 3 years of loneliness, 3 years of being nothing, and one night that changed everything. "I don't want a title," he said finally. "I don't want medals or ceremonies or speeches. I just want to make sure it never happens again. What happened to you? What happened to all those people who died?" Queen smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien face, but beautiful in its own way. "Then we begin tomorrow, Commander," she said. "Rest now, heal, and when you are ready, we will build something new together." She stood and walked to the door. Then she stopped and looked back at him. "One more thing," she said. "The noble you tried to warn. She survived the attack. When she heard what you did, she cried for 3 days. She wanted me to tell you that she is sorry, that she should have listened." Nodded. "Tell her it's okay. Tell her to listen next time." The Queen left. Lay alone in his hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. His body hurt. His heart hurt. But somewhere deep inside, in a place he had forgotten existed, something warm was growing. Purpose. For 3 years he had been lost, forgotten, alone, but now he had found something worth fighting for. Not because anyone ordered him to, not because it was his job, because he had chosen it, because it mattered. He slept. For the first time in 3 years, he slept without nightmares. 6 months later, the new Royal Guard held its first graduation ceremony. The recruits came from a dozen different species. They were trained in combat, in loyalty, in the simple idea that duty meant more than survival. At the center of their training facility stood a statue. It showed a human figure, wounded but standing, holding a corridor against an army of shadows. The inscription at the base was simple, just 3 words that would echo through history. He stayed. In the years that followed, those words became a legend. When soldiers faced impossible odds, they remembered the human who refused to run. When guards were tempted to abandon their posts, they thought of and found the strength to stay. The universe was vast and dangerous. Empires rose and fell. Species came and went. But the story of the human who protected a queen survived through all of it. Because in the end, it was not about strength or speed or weapons. It was about choice. The choice to stand when others ran. The choice to fight when others surrendered. The choice to be something more than what the universe expected. Had made that choice in a burning palace on a distant world. And in doing so, he had shown the galaxy what humans were truly made of. Not size, not power, not technology. Something simpler, something stronger. Heart. And heart, as the aliens learned that night, was something humans had in endless supply.